There's a legend in these parts about Bigfoot. As he was wandering through the forest, he thought about having a podcast. And he walked and thought and walked and thought. Then he came across a little bunny and he pondered, I wonder if that bunny would be my co-host. And the rest, it was history.
Welcome to Bigfoot
and the Bunny.
This is a couple's journey into the mysterious,
the unknown, and the paranormal.
I'm your host, Chris Carr.
And I'm your host, Kristen Johnson.
Together we are Bigfoot and the Bunny.
That magic mute button, very important. Happy Saturday, guys.
Happy Saturday.
We are Bigfoot and the Bunny. I'm your host, Chris Carr.
Kristen Johnson.
You know who we are, and we love you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. As usual, we started with the mute button on. The fancier we get, the more we screw it up. But you got to catch it here live. We have a super interesting show tonight, and I'm sure some of you at least have seen in recent news cycles stories about a Peruvian face-peeling demon
called Pelacata.
Alien.
Yes.
Whatever we want to call it.
Las Pelascadas.
Las Pelascadas.
That's what it is.
Which supposedly translates to face peeler.
The face peelers, yes.
The face peelers.
Yes.
And that's super interesting. So we're like, what is going on down there? We start looking into stuff, and the plot thickens. It gets deeper and deeper. The villages around this area in Peru have been just apparently plagued with people that are maybe pretending to be aliens. We're not too sure, but a girl was injured, a 15-year-old girl. We have all kinds of stuff to show you, and we have a couple of what we consider to be some of the best experts in ufology with us tonight to talk about it.
Absolutely.
We've got some great video to show you guys. I think you're really going to enjoy this. And let me see if I can show you at least something here before we bring them on. Yeah. This is Iquitos, right? And it's the Iquitos villagers that have been talking about this. I'm going to add this to our stream here. We're bringing that up. Sorry. We're so over-prepared tonight. It's ridiculous.
That's
trying to do
different.
Stuff. Right? I know. It's like we went a different way. Just to give you an idea where in the world this is happening. If you go to South America, you go to Peru. And I know my geography is awful, so let me just zoom out, and I'll try to zoom in here. So I can close that. Okay, beautiful. Let's get into this. Here's Peru. All right, so these various villages around Iquitos and the Iquitos tribe, because they're tribal villages. They're quite small. I would say most of them are probably around 1,000 people, something like that.
1,300
1,300,
is in that village alone.
So yeah, when it was we focused on, are reporting this, right? So they're actually running around. They're supposedly trying to protect their women and children, and trying to protect them. They're shooting off guns. They've got some crazy cell phone videos that are coming through that are really pretty intense. I guess, as I said, we got some guests here we want to bring on and talk about it. We'll get a little deeper in depth. We've got some amazing video for you as well, queued up, ready to go. And our first guest here is Mr. Nathaniel J. Gillis. What is up, sir?
What's going on, guys?
Lynch. And I'm sorry, I think I'm a little over prepared tonight. I'm like stumbling on my words. I'm so excited because I want to get this stuff out here, and there's just so much going on. The news cycles have been crazy lately. Apparently, these things look like the Green Goblin. They're 7 feet tall. They're flying around. They're levitating. And as we found out, they may have jetpacks. What have you guys heard? Tell us your story. We'll start with Dr. Lynch.
Please.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear us?
Yeah. Okay.
And we're all good.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I can't hear I can hear you. I just can't hear myself. So, okay. Anyway. Okay. Around Lorento, Peru, which is in Alto Nani, which is a district of Lima. Okay, there is a small village there, which you pointed out on the map, and that they was buzzed by a white orbic UFO about 3 days ago, and they buzzed that city, and then it landed over into the jungle. Now, let me just back up. Every 10 years or so, this will happen. One time it was in Colombia, another time it was in Brazil, and they actually made a movie about it called The Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Mm-hmm. Okay, it was sci-fi, but it was actually based on real events. And this is one of those real events. Now, you're correct. They are 7 feet tall. They can levitate. They have a belt for that, not a jetpack, but a belt for that. Their shoes have some kind of thrusters in them, which actually help them fly, but they can't really fly on their own. Now they're from the Rigel star system, which is the lower leg of the Orion system, and their planet's sun died several million years ago. So these creatures are primarily can see at night, and so they go out at night to hunt, and they eat humans. Okay, there's two factors in this. One is everyone in Peru is O positive, and these creatures are also O positive. So they're out there, they're on vacation, they're having a good time, they need a little snack. So at night they'll go out and they will kill basically a female or a young child, and then they will devour it. Now there's two reasons for this. One is not only are they easier to catch, they don't defend themselves very well. The other one is that a female will hold adrenochrome better in their brains. And these type of aliens get off on the adrenochrome. Now, there was an old gentleman by the name of Phil Schneider, and he talked about there was several aliens that wanted and got high off of our adrenochrome. And that is why women are being attacked more than men. And these guys will leave in about a month or two, but they don't really have like lasers or ray guns. So everything they do is like with knives, or they'll just grab somebody, cut them, so they'll bleed, but not bleed out profusely. And then they will drink the blood and they'll eat the flesh of that human. So they are somewhat bulletproof. Their planet is denser, and they are denser by their natural materials. So if they wear something like Kevlar or something bulletproof, it won't go through it. Bullets won't penetrate. And so they themselves are denser. So our gravity works like, it doesn't work like, I mean, it works more like Superman. Our gravity is low. They come have a higher density planet, so they can then jump and run and it looks like they're flying when actually they're just really, just from a higher density planet. So they will be here for about a month and then they're going to leave. Now already, which has not been covered in the press, is that they have already attacked over 20 different people in other villages. So once they get too hot in one area, they'll fly to another village, do the same thing, hide in the jungle, attack their prey by stealth, kill it, eat it, and that's their vacation. So very much like the Predator movie, that gets dropped off or whatever. These guys still have their ship and it's there. They don't eat any vegetables. And the problem is that they're so elusive that the human race, we in the paranormal fields or ufology, don't have a name for them. So they're very elusive. I asked, but has this happened before? Yes, it has. It's happened like 2 or 3 other times in different countries. That's why they haven't quite put the pieces together. So
let me ask you something, Mike,
before
we get. I'm sorry to.
This will blow your mind.
Your stream. Hang on 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
All right, there's just a few comments there about the blood types and whether they're safe or not, and maybe we want to just talk a little bit about that. You mentioned that there's a certain blood type in Peru. And as far as the multiple villages go, that is the report, right? That it's not one village. Right. It is many villages. They're all kind of saying the same thing, but they're in the same geographical location.
And they've been saying it for hundreds and hundreds of years.
They have. It's just that it's blown up in the last month.
Right. And usually what they look like is they're usually hooded with yellow eyes and they float.
And they appear to be flying, right? So that's the report. They're flying. They're at least a meter off the ground and able to levitate. And there's some video of someone maybe up in a tree, which we'll show later. Very strange. With the blood types, where does the blood? Let's focus on that just a little bit,
and then I have
because I know some people are concerned about their own blood type and whether they might be affected by these sort of green goblin aliens. Where does the blood types fit in? And then we'll let Nate come in, Nathaniel, talk about it, and we'll circle back later.
I think the blood types are somewhat important because, like in America, we have a variety of blood types, and I can walk down the street and 1 out of every 4 or 5 people will have a different blood type than what I do. So Peru happens to be, their entire nation of Peru, the population, is O positive. So, and these creatures are also O positive. So when they're eating the blood, there's no, they digest it better because it's the same as their blood type. You see what I'm saying? If you get a blood transfusion, you can't mix blood types. You have to have, if you're O positive, you have to have O positive blood. If you're AB negative, you have to have AB negative blood. And that's the way it is in consumption. If you're drinking blood, if you want it to be the same as what you are, so there's no rejection in your intestines or in your stomach, so you don't throw it up. So that's why we'll get the vampire myth a little bit later on. But the twist on this is that the person who had their face ripped off is not from these monsters. That is from, get this is my sources, a werewolf that is in the general vicinity, and it is probably whacked up on bath salts, because that's what happened in Colombia. There were some people with bath salts. They went crazy, went to zombie mode, and started eating people's faces.
Yeah, it happened in Miami too.
This could be a werewolf. This could be someone jacked up on bath
that's
salts.
Something. All right,
but it's not these green
goblin type.
It's not the green aliens, because they're going to kill you and eat you.
Let's stop there. Okay, I want to pass the baton to Nathaniel, and then we're going to show that video of whether it's a werewolf attack or what have you. There's been different things coming out on TikTok. What do you think, Nathaniel?
I think it sounds like something right out of Stephen King novel. I think it's fascinating I think it's interesting how they're trying to cover this up already. You know, it's not the swamp gas, but now they're saying it's illegal miners with jetpacks and stuff. But they're all 7 feet tall, by the way. It's just funny when you see this stuff occur and you see the response of the local government or people who literally it's their job to obfuscate. And they just come up with stuff that it falls flat on its face. You know what I mean? They're all 7 foot tall. Like, how does that happen?
Comes in, and now they're trying to cover it all. And your point is so good. How are they reporting 7 foot flying people?
Right.
You know, they're saying it's gold miners. But have you seen the video? Because if you haven't, it's all right. We're going to play it now of the face that has been eaten.
All right. So there's a disclaimer on this one.
Disclaimer.
If you guys weak stomach, whatever, this is actually a dead body that they're pulling from a river. I'm pretty sure. So this is what they call the pelicadas. Los pelicadas is the face peelers, and this is why this video is up. Now it's taken on a cell phone, so we don't know who did it or whatever. So
yeah, we don't have the background on it, but
it's
been thrown into the mix of at least this phenomena that's occurring in Peru. So here we go, guys. Now it's like a cell phone video of a cell phone. This was very hard to get. We did a lot of digging to even find this.
Digging.
But you see, he's covered in palm leaves, right? All right. Now to keep watching, watch the head. This gets ugly.
It's not palm leaves; they're banana leaves.
Ooh.
Oh.
So
disturbing.
All right. Yeah, pretty fucking disturbing. Excuse my French. All right, let me pull that out of there. What were you going to say, Kristen? Sorry.
No, it's okay. It looked like a mask to me at first, like somebody had a plaster of, just.
But it's not. I mean, when you look a little closer at the end of that, it is not a mask. It is pretty. You can see it down his neck.
We did a deep dive in this, and we pulled it up.
You can literally see down the guy's neck.
It's like his neck was.
And if that's makeup, it is really good.
Right. Exactly. We have different takes, just got to go with it.
Not creepy at all.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
One of the things I saw on TikTok that we did uncover, somebody said, see, look at that right there. See in the neck? Do you see in the neck? Somebody said this was a soldier that had died with his face in the river and that the fish had consumed his flesh.
Piranhas. But as I was going to say before, horns up. As I was going to say before, it looks like if piranhas were to eat his face, it wouldn't be it would be jagged. Wouldn't you think? It
probably wouldn't be as
it wouldn't
seamless. And there does seem to be like a white line on the scalp, which made us want to debunk the whole thing. But Dr. Lynch has said it might be werewolves. I mean, what do you think now, having watched the video? Like, what is your feeling on
it? Yeah, I don't think there's that many piranha in Lima, Peru. I think it's too high. So what I think it was another creature other than these green goblins, and it attacked and devoured the face of that person. Now, like I said, it could have been something zombified with bath salts, or it could have been another type of animal, werewolf, something like that that's running around in that area. Now, they have their totems very much like the Native Americans do. So you talk about skinwalkers all the time. Well, this could be a victim of a skinwalker type attack.
Now we got a comment here from Linda Morrison. That was more precision cut, like as in cattle mutilations or cow mutilations. And that is a really good point, and one we wanted to bring up. because I know we watched an interview with a gentleman who was actually an Australian reporter who's involved in ufology, and his name escapes me. And it's like 6 months, maybe a year ago, and he was talking about things going on in South America where instead of cattle mutilations, we were having human mutilations.
Yes.
Thoughts?
It reminds me of Bush Bukowski's work. Matter of fact, I just listened to one of his shows. God rest his soul right now. He's a Wilson researcher, but he was with Art Bell. They were talking about human mutilations, which is it does share some characteristics with what we're seeing. And I'm hearing through the grapevine that Jacques Vallée is coming out with a case where an FBI agent was in charge of basically observing an area of the country where 100 naked dead bodies fell out from the sky, and they were all mutilated in one way or another.
Come on.
Strange.
That's so frightening.
Yeah.
Like they had abductees. Maybe they had them for some time and just
Right.
Right.
I don't want to stray too much from the subject matter, but he was the one that came out with the Todd Cease case study, where I think he owned a farm or something. But anyways, he told his wife that he was going to go down into the woods on his four-wheeler because he wanted to spot the deer and make sure his tree stands were up and everything. And all of a sudden, he went missing. Couldn't find him. Well, the police started investigating. They asked the neighbors what happened, and the neighbors said, "Well, we just saw this silver disc hovering over power lines, and something was being sucked up into it." They originally found his body next to a snake that had died right next to him. His eyes had been cored out, and that his brain suffered hematomas. And when they essentially told the family that, what had happened was that whatever was done to him when he was alive, to the point where his brain couldn't take it, and it just started blowing up inside. But I mean, who knows what this is? But I don't. There's something paranormal about it. It reeks of it, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think we'd agree.
Yes.
Dr. Mike, thoughts? I think Mike has a delay.
Yes.
I'm going to drop out just for a second. You guys are breaking up on me, so I'll be right back. I'm just going to reload and
we'll bring you right back in.
Come right back. All right.
That's fine.
We're live, and this is what happens when you're live. You know,
absolutely.
I might screw up the intro like I did. It's all good. That is the beauty of live internet radio.
Yeah. But Wachowski had another case study of an entire family, a family of 3 that were found. And again, the eyes are cored out. The pathology is very much the same. Drained of blood, eyes are cored out. And it's just the human mutilation aspect of the phenomenon is something that's very rarely talked about. We don't have a lot of cases about it. But when they do show up, it's quite disturbing because it's exactly what they're doing to cattle. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And this is when I saw that in that man's face, it kind of just struck me off.
Exactly, especially the jaw exposed, the nose, and you see this stuff. Linda Moulton Howe's work, which speaks for itself, you know, since maybe the late 70s, early 80s, she's been publicizing and publishing stories about cattle mutilations where these cows are seemingly laser burned. They find burn marks around the face of the cow where the skin and flesh has all been removed, exposing the bone where the rest of the cow is intact. A lot of times these cattle, their bones are shattered and their organs as if they've been dropped from some, astronomical height.
Yes.
Hundreds of feet and just dropped. And that same reporter I mentioned earlier, he was referring to that phenomena occurring to South Americans. Now, I didn't specify Peru. He was talking about South America in general, but they have reports, and that's not in the news cycle, of exactly that. Bodies found where the innards are all just
pretty messed up.
Dropped out of a plane. What's happening, or was it a drug cartel thing, and they're throwing them out?
That's another thing, right?
I know that we call her LMH, right? Linda Moulton Howe, respectively. But there's also a researcher out there who wrote a book called Stalking the Herd, Chris O'Brien, and his work is equally as exhaustive, if not more. And I've talked to him personally, really great guy. But he was talking about Snippy the horse, where they found where something had taken the skin from the snout of the horse and ripped it all the way to the back. It was like some kind of sucking mechanism. Stuff's not pretty, that's for sure.
No,
not at all.
It's ugly. It's ugly.
I remember you telling us that in a past podcast. It was like so heartbreaking in a way.
Yeah, and Linda Monhal had a case where they found a dead cow that had its eyes were poured out, the anus was poured out, and all the whole list. But then they said that they cut into it, and the heart was removed. There was fluid there, but to say, okay, there was a heart here initially, but the heart itself had been removed without someone cutting into the animal, which is really,
how do you do that?
Really strange stuff. I don't know.
And then everybody's like, "Oh, it's the government. Oh, it's this, that." How do you do that?
Yeah, I don't know. If that's the government, we got a problem.
Yeah. Well, you also have local governments. Now there's this again a news cycle about, all right, these are really gold miners, but all right, people mine illegally for gold down there because these villagers own the land, right? And they're trying to scare them off and that sort of thing. And this is a legit claim, except for what the villagers are reporting. Wouldn't you agree, Mike? Can you hear us?
No, I don't think it's miners. These miners are, pardon? Yes.
No, would you agree?
These miners are normally claim jumpers, and the claim jumping. What now?
Go ahead.
No, please keep going.
They'd be claim jumpers that would scare off the local. So I don't think that's what it is, because they have military now involved into this, and so they're trying to retrace the steps of these things. I don't think it's someone in a costume running around. They would not have approached it this way. They would just walked in as a guerrilla task force and shot up the village and just told everyone to leave. They would not. They're very similar to a cartel type of psychology. They come in, they dominate the area, they then take everything out of it, not unless they enslave the local people to actually mine the gold for them, and then that would be the difference. But in this case, it's not. It's just an attack, and it's not like there's a cartel or a syndicate that's out there, chasing these people off.
Gold and gold mining,
the way it works.
Part of this, right? I mean, it makes you think of the Anunnaki.
Yeah.
But here we go, right? So the latest news cycle is circulating this picture. I want to bring up on the screen. And there you see this little Peruvian girl holding a picture on her cell phone of somebody clearly with a jetpack, right? And they're saying it's gold miners with jetpacks.
Okay, so nobody's answering this question. I've been looking this up for 2 days. I know we have jetpacks, the billionaires' toys, whatever, but look at that. I mean, they have moon boots on. What about the jetpacks? If you're thinking about maybe the government, if they really do have jetpacks, who's funding them? Because
there's a couple of.
You even think they have jetpacks? I mean, is this just
that's the question.
Fake news? What's going on here?
The only people that I know that have anything like this are in Dubai, and they fly around with jet wings and jet engines, microjet engines. There's also a guy in France that flies around on a platform that has jet engines. There's another guy in Los Angeles who has put jet engines on his arms and flies around like Iron Man.
Oh my God.
And that's been reported. This type is not the same as what we've got. The longest we can fly on a micro jet engine with pure kerosene is about 20 to 25 minutes. Some people have stretched it out to about 30 using it lightly. But Northrop Grumman, Boeing, they've all experimented with this. They all have tech in this genre. But again, they're not going to use it down in Peru. I mean, that's just flat out why. They don't even use them in war because they're so loud. When you fly over, even with the drone, with the propellers, they are so loud that you can hear them before you even see them. They look like, they sound like low-flying jets. And so if you strap 4 of these on you and you've got some thrusters in your shoes, you're making a lot of noise. And no paramilitary, Elon Musk does not even have
Are you sure about
paramilitary
that,
that he can give these out to and fly around and scare people. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I think so. I totally agree with Mike.
Oh yeah, well, he wants to say that he invented the Iron Man
jetpacks. Unless it's on a Sunday, he's got nothing else to do.
But there is,
yeah, it's a little delay.
Now there is, I think in San Diego, I might be wrong on this, but San Diego or San Francisco, there have been jumbo jet pilots report a man that looks like he's flying about 2,000, 3,000 feet as they come in for a landing. They see this man flying around. They report it. That nobody knows who it is. They don't know what it is. So yeah, do we have some mad people out there with micro jet engines flying around in civilian airspace? Could be, but why in Lima, Peru? The humidity in Lima, Peru is like 100%. The heat is astronomical, and you're going to put a jetpack on.
Yeah,
and a suit. Don't forget about the suit. With armor.
I don't see the reason behind that.
Bother your gold mining expedition. Barbara Nell says the fact they are talking about gold is interesting. Native Americans have reported the same thing here in America being passed down tribe to tribe. I mean, it reeks of the Anunnaki theories, right?
I think so. I think it's funny when they're trying to obfuscate it.
It always has. It always.
God, Nate. It's delay. He's got it.
Yeah, it always has. Man has always. Man has always cherished gold, or been told to cherish gold since time immemorial. In the 6th chapter of Genesis, it says that here, within the Tigris and Euphrates, which is called Eden, that was a good place because of the gold and the onyx. The gold and the onyx. Now, why? If man was barely coming out of bearskins and fig leaves, he would want to know about gold and onyx. So as early as we can remember, in the beginnings of Genesis, they talks about gold and how we should prepare it. The Egyptians had rooms filled with gold. The Romans had statues of gold, inlay, and it's, the banks of Rome were in gold. When you ran out of gold, you broke the bank. There was no more money to pay anyone. So the coinage was always originated in gold, except in maybe the Swiss, where we did the pounding of the coin and we're making money hand over fist because we're pounding out silver coins or gold coins, and that is how we still do it today. Even in ancient Babylon, we said it was worth its weight in gold. So you'd have a cow.
Agreed.
Okay. And how'd you pay for it? Well, you stacked up the gold bars on this side. And then when it balanced out, that was the price of the cow. It was worth its weight in gold. I mean, we talk about it today.
Gold
because we have electronic and digital money. And Elon Musk has now put in the quantum AI to run the stock exchange of Canada.
Yeah, I agree. And gold has been like, we had a gold standard, I think up to like 74 here in the United States, where we actually backed our currency with gold and that sort of thing. We don't do that anymore. But gold has always been so important to everybody. As Misty Moon points out there, why the obsession with gold? It's a question we've asked a lot on the show, because why is it so very valuable to us? It's more malleable than a lot of metals. It can be crafted into jewelry, et cetera, et cetera. The Anunnaki supposedly were creating races of slaves, and that's where we supposedly derive from, and very possibly do, to mine gold for them, these aliens.
Exactly.
Nathaniel, let me ask you, do you see a correlation between, say, the demons of antiquity and gold?
Somewhat. I mean, obviously we have their origins of metallurgy and iron, I think it does have some kind of property that attracts these beings, and more than one. I don't think there's obviously just one species, but I don't know. I mean, I do know that, like Dr. Lynch said, that there are references in biblical antiquity about harvesting and mining. But I can't tell you exactly why. I'm kind of like everybody else. I'm on the fence about it. I don't know why.
There seems to be a limited amount. And they say, like, if you took all the gold in the world and they put it in an Olympic-sized swimming pool, it may not fill it, which I find very hard to believe. But
Yeah, me too.
I have seen that. It's a statement out there, and people who follow these things, like, there is only a certain amount of this gold, and they're mining gold right there in Peru. So what does that mean to all of this? Is it simple, charades of gold hoarders, miners? How can the aliens be 7 feet tall? What are they flying around? There are reports of them having special shoes that glow red
underneath on the sole,
that are making them levitate at least a meter off the ground.
Which is what, 3 feet, 2.5?
Right, and it's about 3 feet.
Yeah,
and it's a video, I think, of one up in a tree.
Yeah, this reminds me, especially when you're getting into the giantism aspect of it. It reminds me of a very obscure researcher that many don't know about. His name was Barry Shamish, and he did a lot of research within Israel about these, whatever these things are. And he was talking about creatures that were 7 feet tall. That one woman saw when she walked out of her house. He was 7 feet tall, and he had those shoes or boots or whatever. And he was looking at her car, and she said something to him, and he told her, I could do some really bad things to you right now if I wanted to. Just leave me alone, leave us alone. So it's kind of reminiscent of that. But I think it's hilarious though, is these people they want us to believe that these miners are all giants. Like, what are the odds of that? It's just funny.
With jetpacks.
Yeah,
That was the question. Yeah. Where the hell are they getting the funding for the jetpacks?
And we all know the government there is, it's not going to be, it's not like the U.S., not that we're perfect over here. Right.
Oh, God.
We're talking about Peru, right? So how easy would it be for them to, have actors, fake actors out there, impersonating like that child with the cell phone photo, saying, hey, all right, no, it's jetpacks, and calm down, guys. There's nothing to worry about. Nothing to
see here is what it's always the damn government.
It smacks of a hastily put together explanation that has holes in it through and through.
Dr. Mike, thoughts?
Yeah, the idea that someone could just afford, pardon? If someone just could afford jetpacks, we would have them everywhere. Kids would be flying them to school. I'd be flying one to work. No, we don't have them. The technology is very limited. So anyone could look at that photograph and say, oh, yeah, Jet Dynamics makes that. I mean, there's only, maybe 6 or 8 companies in the entire planet that make these micro jet engines. And they're only for football games and parades and stuff.
And billionaires'
It
choice.
Makes no sense. Now, if you're in the jungle, yes, it's easier to get from point A to point B. To fly above the jungle.
Right. Who would have thought we were selling them to Peruvian government?
To intimidate illiterate, I'm sorry, but superstitious and illiterate villagers. It's just ridiculous. That's overkill. It's way overkill.
Yep.
Now, there is a technology which you can hover by, and that is from the tall. That's sorry. It's from the tall whites. The tall whites have belts that they can hover with, because. Sorry.
He can hear you now, so it's got like a 7.
There's a delay. It's okay. All right. No worries, Mike. Just go ahead and finish
anyway.
about the tall whites, and I'll play some video.
Okay. Yeah. The tall whites that do have belts like this. They do have belts that they wear on their waist, and they do hover. It does help them hover. Now, they are from, you might say, a weaker gravity, and they require this so they can navigate or move around a lot easier. It'd be like going to the moon with less gravity, and we could just jump around or bounce around. It'd be a lot easier. So, but to have microjets and thrusters and things like that, that technology is not just lying around. I mean, okay, let's just look at it. Let's look at it economically. That would cost you $20,000. Okay, and then you have to learn how to fly it. And then you have to learn how to intimidate people with it.
Okay. In airports.
How many people would be crashing into trees trying to learn?
The current economy, now gold's about 1,000. Yeah.
Exactly, right? You'd be seeing that.
Yeah.
Now here's a video of the
there you go.
Yeah, of the villagers themselves running amok.
Desesperados se defienden contra un atacante que desconocen.
They're firing their gun.
Se trata de habitantes de la tribu Iquitu del distrito de Alto Nanay en Loreto, quienes denuncian ser víctimas de violentos ataques por parte de seres desconocidos.
Necesitamos apoyo para nuestra comunidad. Los niños, mira, se ve los niños no duermen, están ahí las madres desvelando, señores. Son extraterrestres estos señores, son vestidos con blindados, son tipo del hombre verde que parecía el hombre araña, igualitos, son señores. Yo les valió 2 veces y no caen, en vez de que caen se elevan y se desaparecen, señores.
Recientemente, los vecinos de esta zona han denunciado que vienen siendo agredidos por un grupo de seres extraños que los acecha durante las noches.
Llevan en sus zapatos, tienen así como una forma redonda, como un platillo, que de ahí se elevan, andan a 1 metro, así 1 metro de altura andan, y tienen unas luces rojas en la parte del talón. En su cabeza es largo, la máscara que tiene es largo.
Como consecuencia, una adolescente de 15 años terminó con lesiones en el cuello tras ser víctima de estos atacantes. Afirman que la joven fue...
I just want to note that that's a 15-year-old girl, also very much in the media with the story that apparently her neck was slashed.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
she got abducted.
Where some of this face peeling information comes from. Now, they're blurred out her face. We don't really see damage to the face in the blur, but you do see bandages on her neck, right? That's the thing that's happening.
Fue tomada por la espalda, le taparon la boca y cuando ella opuso resistencia, fue cortada en el cuello con un arma blanca. Pese a que han intentado defenderse con armas de fuego, los pobladores refieren que estos desaparecen en el aire.
¡Corremos, corremos, corremos!
Ante el llamado desesperado de auxilio, hasta el lugar llegó la Policía Nacional y personal de la Marina de Guerra del Perú para conocer la situación. Pese a que se desconoce quiénes podrían ser estos atacantes, lo cierto es que esta comunidad viene siendo atemorizada y los ciudadanos exigen mayor resguardo.
So we're not seeing the alien.
Now, if miners could come up with this idea, that's yeah. Right.
Laughable, isn't it? Laughable. This miners,
right.
7 feet tall.
Right. The
It's
effects.
So
Bob says, I'm surprised that they even use cell phones in Peru.
If I wanted to mine for gold, I would do it in Brazil.
Mm-hmm. We're also polite on here. I know, Mike, you have a delay. The thing with the cell phones, it's interesting, is they don't all have cell phones in the villages. A lot of them do, like a surprising amount. But we do see them holding up the cell phones, but it's not everybody. And you got to think these are small kind of villages. So that does explain like maybe why we don't have like a real clear shot of the alien. Thoughts?
Well, I don't know.
If it's in motion, it's like taking a picture. Yeah, if something's in motion with those cell phones, it'd be a blur anyway. It'd be like taking a photograph of a bird in flight, not like a football player, in a football game. So it may be a little distorted, but they also distort the news because those people have not given permission for their image to be on the news. And if you're under a certain age, many countries won't allow your image to be televised.
Mm-hmm.
So there's problems there.
All right. Now I'm just going to bring up,
Linda Moulton Howe has also been in tunnels that date back thousands of years.
Are you good? All right, wait 1 sec. I'm just going to bring up one special message. Just because
I blocked him.
No.
Okay.
Don't do that. Don't do that. All right. This guy, we had a little bit of drama and blah, blah, blah. We didn't want to talk about it tonight, but I really do appreciate this comment. And this is from Hearstman, and this to you, Mr. Lynch, and to Nate and me, I guess, because we all got a little offended. Maybe we got a little out of our own character. We're gonna let this go and bury this. He says he acted out of character and should not have responded to you that way. I've gone through a lot of healing, and he was upset about something, but overreacted, and we're all good. All right, we're gonna put that to bed. That's all we're gonna say about it. We're all good. We're all good.
Put it to bed, like Chris said.
All good.
He goes like this.
I do that. It's like
I
the
love
Misfits
when
thing.
you do that.
Skull. You know, I love the Misfits.
I do my
Thank you.
part.
Thank you for saying that.
Corpse.
And
yeah,
we're moving on. Thank you. And
thank
no
you.
block. No, we don't.
No, it wasn't him. It was the one guy.
The one is he's talking about his own country, I think, and just mentioning that stop asking for this, you do it yourself. Well, we can't, Juan. We're not in Peru. We only have what's being fed to us that we can throw on the show. And I agree, man. I mean, there should be clearer video out there. And there just isn't. There, we have what the villagers are giving us, what the news media in that area are giving us for video, and trying to piece the story together as it trickles through our own news stations and those of Peru. Obviously, that last one was in Spanish, and we couldn't understand the lyrics, the words being said. However, we did do some research, and we watched people who do speak Spanish translate some of these things. We've looked at web pages that were reporting it, translated to English, which is very interesting because what is the word? Pelicadas?
Las Pelicadas.
Las Pelicadas. All right. Everybody that is hyping this is talking about it or translating to skin peeler. We have seen translations come across where it actually had to do with organ traffickers, which is a whole nother subject. Right. So when they're calling them pelicadas, somebody may be referring to somebody who's actually stealing organs on some of these villagers. And, where in the world would that kind of thing happen? Well, it might happen in Peru, right? That's the thing.
Yeah. Yes, mutilations, again, it does reek of something like that in that nature because, it's not just, okay, they mutilate cows, they're taking organs from it, so it does sound something like that. It's very interesting, though.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think about the idea of organ transplanters, Dr. Lynch, on being out there, like people stealing organs, kind of like a, one of those movies where you fall asleep and you wake up and your kidney's gone.
Good Lord.
Wait a minute.
That's
that would not be fun.
Well, it does happen, right?
I mean, people. Now we can talk organ, selling of organs. You can sell a kidney, you can sell a few things, but in the end game, you have to have a qualified surgeon, you have to have a qualified operating room, and you can't do anything, willy-nilly because you'll be caught or arrested. It's better to kidnap and kill your victims than it is to kidnap and operate and then release them back, because that just sets up a whole domino effect. So the idea on organ this is from cadavers or from someone who has voluntarily said, I will sell a kidney, I will voluntarily sell certain things, certain organs. But organ trafficking is real. But listen, there's a lot of problems with that. And it's, okay.
Man.
There's human trafficking. Human trafficking begets organ trafficking. You see what I'm saying? And then you go on from there, and then you have to have qualified individuals to know what's going on. And we're not talking just autopsy surgeons. We're talking actual surgeons with actual equipment to actually remove that organ, preserve that organ, be able to transplant it to another individual. And we're not talking like put it in dried ice in a styrofoam container and, driving across town, even though some are transported that way. We're talking about, weeks before someone actually, needs that organ. And primarily it's the heart, it's the lungs, it's the kidneys, because these things wear out first on an individual. And then that's what they're trying to replace with. So you have someone wealthy enough to pay under the table enough, they can get that unique organ. But again, we're talking about financing. We're talking about unmarked bills. We're talking about, people disappearing and never being found again. And this all leads to some type of suspicion. It's not all alien abductions and the Krill document. We're talking, mafia syndicate situations. And even though it may be very real, and I'm not saying it's not, I'm just saying you have to have qualified people in the chain of command in order to make this happen.
It's something to think about. If you're
Queen Elizabeth can get a new heart, or
Uh-huh.
Elon Musk can get a new whatever.
Sure. I think about like going to Peru to look at the Nazca lines, right? Which are beautiful. And how many tours are there? You can take in a helicopter or a plane or whatever. Look at the Nazca lines. The environment around you, or if you're going to Peru for say ayahuasca, and somebody somewhere deep in the jungle is going to bless you before your trip. You might wake up with a kidney missing. I mean, you have to at least consider these things.
It's
right?
terrifying.
It is terrifying. And it's definitely, reached America, Europe, and all these other shores. Of course, it's not that it's bad, and we're not telling people, hey, don't do that, don't take that tour, but you got to be careful, man. You got to be careful what you're doing when you go into some of these kind of countries that maybe not as organized as it is in your own, and what you're used to, what you're acclimated to, as far as what is right, what is wrong, and what can happen to you. When you get into a place in the world where aliens or gold miners or organ traffickers may be, an influence on your day-to-day living there.
It's sad.
It's something to freaking consider, right?
It's terrifying, like Joshua Dixon said earlier.
Absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, the implications are quite disturbing because it could be all of the above.
We
Go ahead.
Yeah, we have 1 million people on our border, on our southern border. They're trying to escape the drug lords and the cartels. And this is just with drugs. This is just with power, taking over a country's finances, their banking system. Pablo Escobar was not a poor person, so we have 1 million people virtually on our border, trying to get in, trying to get away from all of this craziness that is happening in their own countries. Now, a lot of people in Chicago said Al Capone was, we could tolerate him, we could deal with him. But Al Capone also opened soup kitchens. He also bought a few politicians, but he never became a politician. He never got into the government. He just kind of wanted to run his own little business. So, but then you go down to these southern countries, and their business is trying to take over the government. And so you have.
Yeah. There's a lot going on. I know we don't have a lot of time tonight. But I do want people to be aware that, there are dangers traveling to foreign countries. The news we get from these foreign countries can certainly be filtered certain ways. And as we saw with the person with a jetpack and the girl holding a cell phone, as we saw with the face gone, and I'll show that video one more time for people. Like, this stuff happens. One person said, all right, this was a soldier, his face was in the river. That's very plausible. It sounds good, but is it? Is that really what happened? How do we qualify that? Like, how
did that happen?
We don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't.
It's hard at this point. What
do you think? Is there aliens here? Is there a high probability that there is aliens attacking? We keep seeing July, beginning of July is a date when this stuff started happening. Do you really think it's gold miners that are retaliating against the local villagers so they can steal from their lands that they own? Or is there something else more nefarious going on?
Hard to say at this point, guys. Hard to say at this point. But I will have to tell you, I'm going to head out. I got to head out. I got to go out there and hang out with some of my family. But Dr. Lynch, I love you, my friend. You're my dude. Chris and Kristen, I love you guys. Thank you for having me on. And I was,
You're my man.
I know, man. You guys have a good night, and thank you for having me on. I love you all.
Love you too, brother.
Love you too, man. Thank you for joining us. Mr. Lynch, final words on the aliens of Peru. I know you have a delay.
Oh, man, I still can't.
It's okay. See, this is
Reggie says, I am an alien, so yes.
No, you're just breaking up. I get the very beginning word, and yeah, he's got some guides from Sirius star system, which he talks to quite a bit. So he could be an alien. He could be.
All right. Well, can you hear me now?
Could be an alien.
Hear me now, because I'll ask you one more before we wrap things up. Because
what I have to do is I'm going to
Go ahead. I know your connection's not that great. I'll ask you one more question about the aliens, if you can hear it.
I'm still.
And then we'll move on. Sound good?
About the aliens?
Yeah, just
Which
aliens
ones?
in general.
These?
Maybe this isn't the best time, my friend.
I'm gonna reload. I'm gonna reload, and we'll come back to that topic.
Right,
okay.
That's fine.
Go ahead, drop and
Just
come back.
Give me I'm gonna do a time. I'll come back.
Okay.
Because I can't hear you really. Okay.
All right, we'll do that. Yeah, there's something about some of the conversations we've had. I do want to ask Dr. Lynch about. I'm going to go back to some of our comments here. And Juan Gonzalez, you're bringing up an interesting point. I can only go by the fact that your name is Spanish, that maybe you have some insight on this, and that's not really good credence to go on. But this program keeps minimizing all possible truth with their thoughts, logic, statistics to reduce public views of what's true.
What program?
Our program, babe. That's what he's talking about.
Okay.
Yeah,
sure.
I'm trying to get to it. He's not going to answer us directly. I think maybe we're not trying to do that. If you have some insights, feel free to put it up in the comments.
Yes,
we're certainly open to your ideas and the ideas of those that are maybe a little closer to the heart of the matter. We're not simply trying to exploit it. We do want to know what is at the crux of this phenomena that's going on. That's what we do. We research phenomena. We are here to find out. So if you think that people in that area have a completely different viewpoint than what's being put out in the news, please let us know. From what I know is that we've been looking at videos of villagers running around shooting in the dark. I'm not seeing the aliens themselves in these videos. They're running around with flashlights. You see the women and children huddled together, but they're all running, right?
Yeah, they're not sleeping at
There's
night.
something going on.
Yeah.
We don't know exactly, and that's what we're trying to get to. So if you have some sort of insight that isn't being portrayed on the news, please do let us know, Juan. We'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Please.
Thank you for your comment. And let's go back to our comments and see what we got. Josh says Juan is right. So yeah, Juan might have a really good point. Could be drug cartels, as Rihanna says. And yeah, it may well be. It may just be the trafficking of drugs and cocaine, in particular, through Peru, which borders Colombia. That is, they're keeping people away for whatever reason or trying to scare them from the truth. Very plausible explanation. Reggie, has said before, is an alien. We know this, Reg. Yeah, yes. And we love you, man. Again, I'm going to say it again. Earthman, thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Very adult, very professional. We appreciate it. And all is well. Let me see. You don't do that, Reggie, as Rihanna says. Steve says, I think as soon as we say that looks fake is when we stop looking. Good point.
We agree.
I think a lot of fake stuff gets pushed out there, right, Kristen? Like,
absolutely.
We see this with our own government, right? We're sitting here looking at videos and UAPs, whatever we call them for whatever department acronym we're using, whether it's Arrow or ATIP or whatever it is, depending on the day and time, saying, okay, that's good. And then we see these same people go before Congress of the United States of America, right? We think this is a pretty big deal. And they're showing like a Mylar balloon video.
That's what pisses us off. We know they're debunked. We know
what that is. So you can see it's a Mylar balloon. That's not a Tic Tac.
Another one they show with 3 balloons with a payload. That's
ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Stupid.
Steve says we should never stop looking.
Nope.
Greg says, great to see you guys. Well, great to see you, my friend. Thank you for joining us. I know you had a busy day.
Yeah.
All right. Juan has commented again. Open when you have same beliefs. Get someone right there to balance your topic, like Jamie Mawson, to give you updates. He gets on all matters. Okay, we'll look into it.
Yeah.
Look into it. We don't know Jamie personally, so can't do that today. But thank you. We do appreciate that. Jack says, I posted earlier about $28 of gold being mined illegally in Peru, so criminals destroying the land for profit could be using scare tactics to frighten the locals. Right.
We agree.
And that is today's news story, right? So yesterday when we were looking at this, it was something else completely different. Today, 20%. All right. Right. It's a different thing, and they're blaming the gold miners. I see Michael joining us. We'll see how this is working out. What's up, sir? Can you hear us now?
Yeah. Yes. I can. Everything's in real time now. I'm
excellent.
Sorry.
Beautiful. The one thing I wanted to ask you, I know
about
this time and time again on different podcasts that we've done, and you've been on other shows, is you speak about like say Pleiadians and different aliens doing different things as far as the human race goes. And I just wanted to ask you one question because I think it'll help some of our audience. What do you base that on? When you say the Pleiadians came in here, they did this, they did that. What is the data that you're using for that?
Well, it's from their own data. Now, how am I going to say this?
Whose data?
Take your time. It's a good question.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. There are organizations inside of our government. Some are under contract. Some are not. Some are just government employees. Now, a few years ago, when we were all a lot younger, they decided to round up all this information, and they would keep it in different storage areas. Okay. Now, there was a time when the old boy network still existed, and this is way after Corso. I mean, this is way up into the 70s and 80s. When the old boy network was still around, they had access to and read all that information. And they then would suggest to Congress and other government officials what what it meant. These are analysts, these are ex-military, And they would have this information, and a lot of it was in their head because they got kind of paranoid and they did not release it to the public. So between Admiral Byrd's Antarctic high jump scenario all the way up to about 1980, these old boys had it all. And they met with Pleiadians, Orions, maybe an Andromedan or two would show up. Now, their information came from them. Now, let me just back up. Okay. Their information came from them, them personally. So when we went to the moon, we had to ask permission. And when we got to the moon, we saw their ships lined up on the ridge. Neil Armstrong says there were ships lined up on the ridge and they would look menacing. They looked menacing. Okay. Now, that was in 1969. All right. So by the time we hit in the 1970s, we were doing full one-on-one contact with Pleiadians and Orions in order to maintain the Apollo missions. So if people think that under Project Paperclip, a bunch of Nazis got us to the moon, maybe. Yeah, could be. But I can tell you, there was a lady who I met personally. Her name is Crystal Jackson. She wrote a book called The Way I Saw NASA, and she worked at NASA. Now get this, she was at a party and she was talking to the head of the Cape Kennedy NASA branch. And he had a pool party and they were all invited, all having cocktails. And he said, we had to get permission from them, quote unquote, to go to our moon. Well, he was poorly mistaken because it wasn't our moon, it was their moon. And we had to get permission from them. And then throughout her working there at NASA, she would go to the donut shop and she would see these NASA engineers. Now, this is again treasonous. This is treasonous. NASA engineers showing their blueprints to this tall, blonde-headed guy in a wool suit in Florida. And he was writing in the margins, okay, this will work, this won't work. He was helping these engineers get to the moon. And he was a Pleiadian, okay? George Menger, now, again, you got to go back and you got to meet these guys, but George Menger had a potluck dinner and 4 extraterrestrials showed up at the potluck dinner. And they told him they were extraterrestrials. Okay. And they were in a Victor 1 spacecraft out at Lake Mead. And it was cloaked, it was invisible. And they were monitoring all the news and radio broadcasts. There were 250 of these ships all over the earth monitoring Russia, monitoring America,
Iran,
monitoring the JFK assassination, the RFK assassination, Iran, you name it, they have their thumb on it. Now, I'm gonna say this. Okay, in Men in Black, when Will Smith walks up to this big screen, and they say, "Yes, we monitor all the aliens on your planet," and he goes, "Oh, that makes sense because I had a teacher in 5th grade, and we all swore she was from another planet, and lo and behold, they pulled her up."
Yeah.
Okay, that is exactly what the Victor 1s were designed to do. Okay, to monitor all the telecommunications. Valiant Thor talked to Dr. Frank Stranges and said, "This is what we're here to do." And he was at the Pentagon. Val Thor, commander of Victor 1, was at the Pentagon for 3 years. And he was telling them all this stuff, and they were trying to drag information out of him. And they didn't realize that he could beam up to his ship or beam down to his apartment in the Pentagon at any time, at will. Mm-hmm. These guys were talking to an extraterrestrial that was 180 years old. And he looked like he was 30. I mean, the
I wish.
Pentagon, the government is riddled not only with stories, with photographs and information given to us by the extraterrestrials. Now, okay, there's been a lot of archaeologists, and they come out of, they're funded by our government, and they come out with all these findings. And it says right there in many archaeological books, cuneiform writing never existed on the planet. And then all of a sudden it existed. Okay, Egyptian writing never existed on the planet. Then all of a sudden it existed. Two forms of it.
There aren't steps up that I'm aware of.
The Mayans.
That's a really good point.
Mayans developed.
Let me stop you there. That's a really good point you just made.
Yeah, they disappear. They disappear.
We look at hieroglyphics. We don't know what the process was of putting them together, right? They're just there, right? As we see them, as we unearth them, they're just there. They have a language. We can do the same thing in South America.
Correct.
We can look at that languages, and
you
look at the Mayans, and it was a lot of turnover in South America with the Incans, the Mayans, and some of these civilizations didn't exist that long yet. They were freaking huge. The cities were enormous, and it's a language, and it's painted, and it's written down. We don't know what it means. We don't know where it came from, why it started, and you don't see a progress chart. Like, okay, we started with a glyph, a petroglyph, and now we're just having full sentences and writing books.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
Right? Delay.
Okay, now I can start at Egypt. And let's say we started Egypt, the Great Pyramid of Egypt, and we go out like 100 miles. Okay. And then we wrap a ribbon around the earth, starting in Egypt, and we go all the way around. We go to South America. We go to Peru. We go to Japan. We go to Tiwanaku, Machu Picchu. Mm-hmm. We keep going all the way around the world. Now, there's one thing that is in common, and this is through modern archaeology, is the staples that is in all of this architecture. And these staples are made out of nickel, iron, and dipped in lead. And it is a molten, and they pour it into these capital I-shaped grooves in the brick. Okay, so if you have an earthquake, they shift, but they don't fly apart.
Right.
Okay, these staples are found in Japan, China, Cambodia, okay, all the way around the world, back to Egypt. Now, we don't see that technology again until 800 years later. The ancient Romans tried to do the same thing, and they screwed up. And so the the iron that they used rusted, and it decomposed, and the bricks started to come apart. You can go to the arena, the Colosseum in Rome, and these staples are there, but they've been modified where they did them in iron and nickel, and then they dipped them in lead, and then they put them in. Now, when they did the marble surfacing, they used the lead inserts so it wouldn't decolorize the marble. So you can go to ancient Rome, okay, and see this, and see how they did this. Okay, well, that technology is gone. We don't even do that today.
Right.
There's so much in the Great Pyramid on how they cut the stone as they were building it. We don't have that technology today. We can't do that today. Okay, so
that's right.
If you're talking like magic, if you're okay. I brought this up before. I'm going to bring it up again. And I swear to you, I am absolutely correct. Go to Billings, Montana, and there is something called the Sage Walls. Now, you can find this on YouTube.
Yes.
The Sage Walls and the Giants Playground. And they are walls that have been lifted by machines and stacked so precisely that they survived 440,000 years of mud floods, the flood, and everything you could throw at these things, and they're still there. And what's so unique about them is that they're the progenitors, meaning the walls were covered with this stucco stuff that had crystals in it, crystalline. So they're piezoelectric. The whole wall is piezoelectric, filled with crystals. Okay, you don't see that again until Sacsayhuaman. In Sacsayhuaman, they did the same thing. Okay, so the Anunnaki built these things. The Sage Wall is built by the Anunnaki. And then everyone else over time copied that same exact style, because why? They had the exact same equipment. Whether it was the Anunnaki, the Orions, the Pleiadians, when they came and set up a colony, they brought their equipment. And then over time, it failed. Even in Egypt, there's a story where Rome invades Egypt and a centurion knocks over the last lamp that was powered, unknown, no one knows how, but it would glow at night. During the day, it was soft, but during the night, it would glow. And a Roman centurion knocks it over and destroys it. Well, what happens after that? 1,000 years, 2,000-3,000 years go by, and we find the Baghdad batteries that should not have existed. But where they were found was in an assembly line. One guy made the pot. One guy made the copper that went into it. Someone had the tar. Some other guy made the orange juice or the grape juice. None of that should have existed. Okay, but it did, because it was like, if my equipment breaks, what am I going to use to supplement or replace it? Well, all of this broke down somehow, for some reason. Maybe there was a flood. Maybe there was an earthquake. Maybe there was 28,000 years ago, the Younger Dryas. Maybe the Younger Dryas destroyed all this. Okay, but somehow from the ashes, we see in Peru, Sacsayhuaman, the Sage Walls, we see the same type of architecture. The only thing that changes, the covering of it all, the only thing that changes is the staples. And the staples can be found in almost every, what we call modern civilization after that. Because why? They were so afraid of earthquakes.
Exactly.
That they created this technology out of nothing. It never existed before. All of a sudden, just look at the staples. 14,000 feet high and sea level. These staples show up in all the construction made 5,000 or 6,000 years ago. Before that, they cut the stones and put them, they form-fitted them or wedged them together like Legos so they would not come apart. Okay, and if you look at the Sage Wall, that's exactly what you see, is these large stones cut at certain angles, and then they fit together so they could not fall down. Now, what 440,000 years ago were they defending themselves from? Because we know there was no humans on board. They had to have been fighting the dinosaurs or large beasts of burden, beasts of the field. Because why? They were looking for gold, and they were strip mining Billings, Montana for gold. Strip mining right off the surface, processing it. And if you look at the Sage Wall, and if you look at it as it was then, there was a big river that came right by it. So they built this entire installation right by a river. Why do you need water? Well, every gold miner will tell you, you've got to wash that. You got to wash that dirt and sludge all down. So they are using natural environments like rivers and waterfalls to process the gold. And they built an insulation. These are 40-foot tall walls, which we would have to dig down 20 feet to get to the bases. And these are the progenitors of everything that came after that. So,
yes.
So yeah, there's a lot left. but there's a lot that's been destroyed. And the Younger Dryas destroyed that. The mud flood destroyed that. And then the flood, and the Mediterranean destroyed everything else. So Maui just had a major fire. Maui just had a major fire.
Awful.
California and other places.
Where do you go?
If their technology is wiped down to nothing, cars are right. Well, what are you going to replace it with? You have to reverse tech, go back to wagons and mules. You're going to go down in technology in order to build it back up. You see what I'm saying? And that's what happened somewhere. So the Orions left, the Pleiadians came, the Pleiadians left. When 16,000 years ago, there was a Pleiadian base, and that's where the Celts and Germans come from. Okay, why? Blood type. Okay, the Orions were O positive, but they went to a certain extent, and then they disappeared. Look at Quetzalcoatl and a few of the other gods. They were white men with beards and funny hats. And look at the Olmecs. We don't even know where the Olmecs came from.
The Olmecs,
Polynesian, African.
Right.
They did sculptures so big,
the balls,
you can't lift them.
Big balls.
Yeah.
Big balls.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden they just vanished. Yeah. They had all that. They had all that tech, and then all of a sudden they vanish. Mm-hmm. Why? Yeah. I mean, some people talk about the Anasazi. The Anasazi Indians just vanished. And there are villages in South America that they were Mayan, I think they were Mayan. But anyway, they went in there, and through archaeological finds, they found that they were still cooking food, and dishes were still on the table, and food was still in the pot. And it was like they just disappeared. Whole villages just disappeared. Now, everyone says, well, that's because they lost faith in their king. And when you lost faith in your king, you just walked away. Mm-hmm. You walk away from your home, your village, everything that you know, just because you don't like your king.
Right.
No,
I don't know if I
think weird going on. Okay. Not very far from where I live was the Cahokia Indians.
Okay. Oh, yes.
Pardon. I'm sorry. I'm losing you guys again.
No, we know.
But anyway, the Cahokia Indians were an offshoot. They were an offshoot of the.
No, you're good.
I'm sorry.
It's all right, Mike. We're good.
Anyway, the Cahokia Indians were an offshoot of the Mayans, and
I know you're having a hard time hearing this, Mike. It's okay. It's why we're not asking a lot of questions. Just if you could take this topic, and we'll wrap it around.
Yeah.
We'll save the rest for the next episode.
Yeah.
Did you get that?
Okay.
All right.
Very good. Thank you very much for having me on, and I hope we shed some light on these difficult times and crazy things. So thank you very much.
We really appreciate you being on, as well as Nathaniel.
Yes.
We really want to thank our audience out there.
Yes,
too.
thank you.
You guys are fantastic. We effing love you guys. Thank you so much.
We do, though. You guys know that.
We'll see you guys next Thursday on Dark Horse Paranormal Podcast. And again, a big thank you. Love from our hearts. You're awesome. Every one of you. Fantastic. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend.
Good night.
Be safe.